into two separate parts. The first one is choosing the right material, and then second part is aging that. These two steps are where you're going to start to making your costume. So we'll start with material. That's the first thing you want to do because you have to have material to distress. There are good options and bad options. So your good options here you can see are cotton, denim, wool, genuine leather. These are very like natural type materials. They're not super like man-made. They're going to be very receptive to dye. They're going to wear naturally. So you're going to get really realistic wear on them, as opposed to the bad options, such as synthetic options, such as polyester and nylon, satin and silk, faux leather. These items, one, they don't take dye, so you're going to be putting a bunch of color on them and just wasting all of your materials, and it's not going to go into the materials of that fabric. They also just, they don't rip, they don't tear. If you get any strings out of them, they're going to curl up like a piggy's tail. Stay away from this. Keep on this. Cotton is probably the easiest one. You know, out here in the farm, we use a lot of denim. Wool's probably a little too heavy. But yeah, just keep that in mind that you're looking for the more natural items when it comes to materials. Now to age it, we want to really just kind of change the overall color. We want that kind of dingy look. Some items that you can use to change the color of your material are fabric dye, black tea, coffee, really, honestly, anything that stains. You could use wine. That's going to give you more of like a purpley. It really all just kind of depends on what you're going for. You can really get creative. Something that I find really interesting, if you guys have seen the new Whopper that's coming out from Burger King, they don't use artificial dyes, so they're dyeing their bun with beet juice. Beet juice really does give you, it's more like a pink color, but it stains really well. So just have some fun. But these three right here are probably the most common for staining items. This is really where you want to be when it comes to distressing your costume. Don't come up to me with this bad option over here and go, I'm done. Okay, because you're not convincing me that you live here in Ravens Gulch. You're not convincing me, okay? What you're telling me is that you went to dinner and had an accident with a ketchup bottle. That is the only thing that I am believing, okay? So this, not that. When it comes to items that are darker, really you only have one option, bleach. You have to take away color. You're not going to take this black t-shirt and put red on it and expect anything to show. So you're going to want to use some bleach. I've got two examples here. This is kind of more of a natural fade. Maybe your favorite band t-shirt that you wear every summer. It's gotten a little faded. This one, you had an accident in the laundry room. You spilled some bleach on it. But you're going to want to take away color in order to add color on top of it. I actually have an example here. Not that one, that's the bad one. Okay, so what I think is really funny is, so I got these dresses last year and I just kind of tossed a bunch of bleach on them. I mostly did it here at the bottom, and I'm used to, it doesn't have a tag on it, so I can't tell you what it's made of. I just kind of went in and was like, hopefully this works. I'm used to, like, you know, my t-shirts, like I'll get like a drop of bleach on them, and for some reason black turns red. I don't understand the science behind it, but I think we've all kind of been there where we get bleach on our favorite black t-shirt and it turns red. This turned completely white, which was something I was not expecting. So one, I took away the color, but then I was able to put this color on top of this. Had I skipped that step of bleaching it first, this would have not shown. So like I said, underneath this is white, and then I just put reds and browns and just nastiness on top of it. I can't remember when I wanted to bring this one out, so I'm just bringing it out now. So we just talked about like materials and choosing the good ones. This right here, as you can see, looks very different from the other option. I did just as much work to this dress as I did to the other one. Okay, but if you look at the tag here, let's see, 100% polyester. Okay, nothing happened. If you look really, really close at the bottom, you'll notice that a tiny bit came out. Like even bleach didn't work on this. And this is why I'm telling you that materials matter. I have tried so hard with this dress and nothing will work. And that's why you really don't see it out there. So just remember to choose your materials and then age it appropriately. Some things to keep in mind. We want to use our big brain. A lot of clothing that you find in the store is going to be what is known as a blend. things like wool and cotton and denim, and well, not so much denim, but they're expensive to make. And so to cut costs, a lot of clothing designers will use what is called like a blend, which means that it is mostly cotton, but also has some other stuff in there. So if you're at the store, you're at Walmart or something, and you walk up, you see a t-shirt that says cotton on it, check that tag because it might say cotton blend. Okay, and if that blend is too high, nothing is going to happen to your garment. It's not going to receive any color or anything like that. Second thing, you want to remember color theory. If you get a blue t-shirt and you want to turn it yellow, you can't just put it in yellow dye because you're coming out with a green t-shirt. Okay, so color theory is a thing. For this case, for the haunted house, I recommend that you just stay with white and tan. That's going to be most realistic. But depending on what you guys are going for, just remember to keep that in mind. And then last, read the instructions. Different types of dyes can be applied in different ways. A lot of the RIT dye that I use should be applied with like boiling water. So you boil some water, you put your dye in, and then you submerge the item. But because I'm not going for overall color on the entire thing, that's not usually what I do. But depending on what you guys are going for, it does help to read the instructions. I know some like tie-dyes require ice, which is completely the opposite of boiling water. So just do yourself a favor, read the instructions. They're all different. Some useful tools. A lot of this probably doesn't come as a surprise. So scissors, obviously, you can take away big bulk of your fabric, take out big chunks. If you want your item to look torn, tear it. Don't use scissors. I really wish this looked torn. We'll just tear it, okay? However, scissors will help you create that hole, get a little gap in there, and then you can rip it open with your hands. So don't solely rely on scissors. I forgot the word for rely. Seam rippers are really good. What you can do is take away this stitch that is at the bottom of your shirt, in your sleeves, stuff like that. I like doing that because then it tends to fray a little bit. You have to be careful because the reason our items are hemmed is to keep them together. So if you take off every hem on your clothing, eventually your shirt is just going to be a string. Okay, so be careful. But I do like to use that on some areas, like I said, so I get those strings and those frays. Sandpaper is really good for taking away bulk. So if you've got some really heavy duty jeans, you really shouldn't buy them brand new, but if you do, sandpaper will just take away some of that weight. A lot of times they're heavy duty, they've got a lot of dye in them. So that'll take away a lot of that. You can use really any type of wire brush to like brush it out, take away some weight, create some holes. I chose an example of a pet brush just because I thought that was probably the most realistic thing for people to have. I use one that's designed for like leather saddles and stuff, but you can really use anything that's got teeth on it that's going to grab at your fabric, you can use and just scrape away at it. Over here, I have what is known as a horse file or a hoof rasp. It is used for shoeing horses. You can really use any file. If you guys want to like raid your dad's garage or something, he might have something for like wood or like metal work. The reason I chose this one specifically is because this file is going to have big, chunky teeth that you're going to take it, swipe it one time, and it's going to look like it's been in your grandmother's attic for like 60 years. I'm telling you, it's going to be chock full of holes, which is really great. So add that to the shopping list, please. Great Stuff here in the middle. So Great Stuff is an expanding foam that is really fun to play with. PSA, please use gloves. If you get it on your skin, it's never coming off. Congratulations, that's what you look like for the rest of your life. However, do not take it and just spray it on your garments because it's going to look like somebody took a dookie on you, okay? That's all it's going to look like. If you go this route, you're going to want to either spray it on a plastic bag or get some rubber gloves and work it in with your hands. That's going to create some stiffness, some body. It's going to look like you pulled this shirt out of like a hoarder's house. It's going to add some nasty texture. It's really, really fun to play with. You really just got to like squeeze it into those fibers and stuff. You also want to work it in because then if you do throw it in the washer, it's less likely to come off. If you just spray it like on yourself, it's just going to come off. You're going to pick at it. You're going to peel at it. It's not going to stay on there. So if you decide to go with Great Stuff, just make sure you really, really work it in and stipple it and brush it and stuff like that and make it look nasty. Fire is a great option. It's going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. It's going to burn it. So unless you're a burn victim, probably don't go with that. But it is fun to use. So if you'd like to, just be very, very careful when you do that. But like I said, no surprises there. It's going to look exactly like you expect it to look like. Or, just anything, really. Grab yourself a dingle hopper. If it is sharp and pointy, have at it. Just be careful. You really can't go wrong. We're just trying to make stuff look bad or good, whatever. Details and final touches. So some techniques that I use. This one here is called dry brushing. What you do is you take a very dry brush, surprise, and you put the tiniest little paint on it. A lot of times I'll even brush that off until the brush feels dry again. What you're trying to do is highlight certain areas here, and it's usually the high points. So if you rub it on like a seam, you're only going to get those high points of the seam. This is really good for creating like grime, lots of dust. You could do it on your shoulders with some white or gray paint, make it really look aged and old. Dry brushing is really fun. However, it dries very quickly. So when you put your brush to your item, that's what it looks like. There's no going back, so be careful. Think outside of the norm. I really encourage you guys to be creative. I think a lot of times when we think haunted house costumes, we're just like, put blood on it. Great, awesome. All of you guys have blood out there. Great, good job, Carrie. Get a little creative, okay? It makes a lot of sense to be sweaty. You guys are farm workers, farm hands. So get yourself nice and sweaty, gross, not really, but put some sweat on there. Oil, you're out there working on like farm equipment and stuff like that. So oil's pretty fun. Get some blacks in there. Mud, it only makes sense. We all get muddy, don't we? So it makes sense that your costume would have mud on it. I think vomit is really fun because you can play with colors, you can play with textures, you can really tell a story as to like what you've eaten. It's like, okay, I see broccoli and carrots, some eyeballs, interesting. So that's really fun. And then you can always play with the colors, like that person ate rainbow ice cream and birthday cake. Bile, I think is really fun. I think that's probably my favorite thing to put on stuff. A really acidy, like yellow, green. I think that's super, super fun. Or feces. Be prepared if you decide to put some poopy on you. You're gonna get roasted. So this is probably the last option that you want to do, but it is an option. So if your character pooped themselves, go for it. You're gonna get a reaction. You just have to be ready for that reaction. Spray bottles. So Sophie actually brought me some spray bottles. Ta-da-da. These are really great. You probably see me use these 90% of the time. They're really quick and easy. What's really nice is that there are so many options for how you can use them. So I've got an example here. You can twist the cap here. I'm pretty sure all spray bottles do this, but I would just double check before you buy one. You can twist this and you can either get a nice tight stream or a wide spray, which is really nice. That stream is going to be really good for like wounds. Maybe you were caught on a pitchfork or a tree limb or something. You're going to bleed a lot right there or something like that. Whereas if you're just walking around in the dirt, it's spraying up around the bottom of your pant legs and stuff. The spray is going to be really good for that. It just creates some options and some variety, and it breaks up just having like one color across the whole thing. Oh, the other thing is, I almost forgot this. The other thing that's really nice when using a spray bottle with dye and stuff, whatever you choose to put in there, whether it be tea or coffee or whatever, is that you can adjust the overall like hue of the color that you're trying to go for. If you are putting blood on your clothing, it shouldn't look like this. Blood doesn't really look like this. Maybe fresh blood. It's more likely that it's going to look like this. It's been dried a little bit. You've been sitting out in the sun. It looks gross and ruddy. So, play with color theory. Add some colors, add some water, whatever you want to do. Make it look realistic. Spray paint is also a really good option. It works very similarly to what you would get if you just use a regular spray bottle. What you want to consider is that spray paint is very heavy. So when you put it on your garment, it's going to create a lot of stiffness. It's going to be heavy. It's not going to be a whole lot of movement. Honestly, I think that's pretty good. I think it makes the item look a lot older, but it all depends on what you're going for. If you want your costume to have a lot of movement, spray paint's probably going to be a little bit too heavy. Also stinky. You're going to smell like spray paint for a long time. Okay, that stink stays along for a while. So just be prepared for that. You might want to do that way in advance. Maybe wash it a couple of times to break it up and stuff like that. But keep that in mind. Here I have an example as to what the stream looks like when you use a spray can. So what you want to think about is that when you hold the item closer, you're going to get a tighter stream. So that's going to be like when you have your spray bottle on the stream setting. It's going to be very highly concentrated and a lot smaller. If you hold your item further away, it's going to break up and give you this like stippliness and stuff like that. Essentially, you want to assume that wherever you put this, that's essentially like the tip of your pen, if you will. So imagine, you're holding it this far away. The tip of your pen is like this. You're going to be creating lines that are this big. You all looked. If you hold it this far away, your pen is now this big. It's a lot more spread out. You're getting an overall color as opposed to like those fine details and stuff like that. So just remember this if you do decide to go with spray paint. It also is much more permanent, which is really nice. It's probably not going to wash off as much, but you do have the possibility of it chipping. Everything's really going to give you a different kind of outcome. At the end of the day, this really is science, and my best advice is just to play around with it because everything's going to work a little differently depending on what your materials are, what type of paint you're using, what kind of techniques you're using, stuff like that. So you want to play around with it. Before you do anything, you want to like test it essentially. I definitely didn't add this slide at the last minute. I didn't. It's very great. You all love it. One thing that I forgot to mention is that when you are distressing your clothing, you want to have rhyme and reason. Don't just throw color on it for the sake of throwing color on it. Why is there color here? What is the color and why is it that way? A good example is JNCO jeans. They are notorious for being absolutely filthy on the bottom because they drag on the floor. Let me grab my example. All of these are super clean. I have not distressed them since washing them. So like here, as you can see, I concentrated the brown more towards the bottom because you're walking around in the dirt. It's going to gather here. It's not going to be as heavy here in the middle as it would down here in the bottom. So think about who you are and what your character is doing and why the stuff is where it is. Same thing here. It was a lot darker before. I tore this off. I imagine this person got hit in the shoulder at some point, so there's a lot of highly concentrated red in this area. And then, as you can see, overall, there's just a lot of dirt and grime and nastiness. I think that might be the last one. Finn, done. That's it. You guys have questions about anything? Great, awesome. I am always available for questions if you guys have questions. You can come up and look at the examples if you'd like. If you want to have a better understanding as to like, what things should look like, you're welcome to look at these. You can ask me questions in the wardrobe room. You can send me questions on Facebook. It is totally up to you guys. But yeah, that's it. If nobody else has any questions. Yes. Avoid them if possible, because I can't tell you what percentage is like where the limit is. I don't know where that is. So you just want to make sure that if you have something that is a blend, that it is more of those natural, like the cotton, wool, stuff like that. It has to be more in favor of that. If it's more in favor of the synthetic, I would stay away. But I don't know where like the magic number in the middle is. Yes, yes, exactly. Any other questions? Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate. Oh, there's one. Sorry. Yes. That's actually a really good point. I'm actually glad that you brought that up because that is, and I forget this because I've been doing this a while. I forget that people still think like that. Will it get you a result? Yes. It is not the result you want. It is going to be very realistic, but here's the thing. If you wash that item, which I hope you do, it's going to come clean. That's what detergent does. It takes away dirt. We're looking for something more permanent. Also, that's disgusting. You do not know what is mixed in that dirt. A lot of bugs, a lot of you know what. Just don't do that, okay? Realistic things are great. Like I said, if you want something to look torn, just tear it. But if you want to look like it was dragged behind a car, be a little bit more creative. You don't want to wear nasty clothing, okay? Don't put that on your body. Do you have a question? That is true. My fiance, he just bought these like pads for his shins, and he was bound and determined to dye them. And we read the instructions. It said synthetic. I forget what they were made of. I want to say they were nylon or polyester. And I'm just looking at it like this is gonna work. I know the instructions say it's going to, but it's not going to. He left that thing in a bucket of black dye overnight, and it got slightly more black. It went from light gray to slightly darker light gray. So synthetic fabrics, Brandywin does have a good point. You can dye them. It is very hard. It is so hard. Just don't make it hard on yourself. Go with the easy option. Anything else? We have that issue with, if you've ever seen that Ringmaster jacket that I have, which is actually this gray, like an officer's wool coat that I have. It's very, very light gray. I thought, oh great, I'll just get a big barrel of some red dye and throw it in there. So I want it to look red. So I threw it in there and let it sit overnight, took it out and hung it up. Yes. It came out this really kind of nasty purple, which ended up being fine. Not what you wanted. I was going more for red. So not the color I wanted, but yeah. It was okay. That brings up another good point. So I have, and it still shocks me to this day, I have somebody come up to me and is like, Erin, I found this amazing costume at Spirit Halloween. Don't do that. Don't do that. Every single item there is going to be synthetic. You are not going to get realistic wear on it. You're not going to... Cheap. Listen, I love Spirit, just like everybody else. I'm going to decorate my house. I'm going to get my costume from like my costume party. I'm not buying it for the haunted house. So some options if you are looking for clothing. If you want something to look worn, it's better to start with something that is worn. So thrift stores are going to be your best friend. You can go to like Walmart and Target and stuff like that if you're looking for something like really specific. But if you want to make it easier on yourself, just get something that's already worn. Make it simple. But again, just like I said, and like we've all talked about, check the directions, check your tags, and make sure that the items that you're working with are easy to work with. Anything else? Yes. What you guys like alter your costumes in. Okay, speak from personal experience. Like if you buy your dress red, your tongue is gonna turn possibly. Yes. So just like make sure you guys know. Yeah, do know. Yes. Like I used to throw blood in my mom's backyard. But yeah, don't do any like permanent damage. Yes, that is a really good point. I don't want nobody getting in trouble, calling me up like, Erin, my mom's yelling at me. Like, listen, I did not tell you to do that. Your best friend is going to be like, what's even more insulting is that they're going to dye your tub and not your clothing. And now you're really mad. Do yourself a favor, go to Home Depot, get like the 5-gallon buckets or like Target, get yourself a bin. Get yourself something that you don't care if it's destroyed because that's literally what you're doing. You're destroying something. So what you're destroying it in is probably also going to get destroyed. On that note, if you're doing a dye that requires you to boil it, get a pot from the food store. You don't want to be cooking in that pot. No. Give yourself some good, like, nasty brown sock soup. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I know, we have the all-in-one, the popcorn bucket, throw-up bucket, dying bucket. Get yourself a new pot. Brandon's right. Like, thrift stores are your best friend. Everything you need. You can find crazy tools, crazy containers, crazy clothing. So yeah, that's a really good point. Really, really good point.
Another point is experience. You're using brake stuff or whatever it's called. Please go outside.
Yeah.
You need inflation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. By being at this class, you have consented that I am not in charge of your safety. Okay. If you're gonna work with chemicals and sharp items, don't hurt yourself, please. All right. Anything else?
Practice safety, everybody.
Yes, please. Please be safe. Awesome. Well, that is it. Thank you guys for coming. I will put together another class, hopefully eventually, maybe a 102. But like I said, feel free to reach out with questions or anything. Oh, there's another question.
Are you the one that approves the costumes?
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
I do work alongside with, the Michaels and stuff, but as soon as you want. The sooner the better, because if it's something that we really just can't work with, I want you to have time to, get something better. But the sooner the better.
So, Erin, after this class, will you approve my costume?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you guys have stuff you want me to look at, absolutely. Okay. I think we're done. Thank you.